Yes, outside of any religious statement saying the Catholic faith says pride is the first of the deadly sins. That's fine, you say the Catholic faith, but pride, they're only saying it because pride is the first of the deadly sins. They're only saying it because thermodynamics agrees. If an atom gets proud, what would an atom do if he's proud? Atoms have electrons and neutrons floating around and a proton in the middle, and they're doing their job. If it gets proud of doing its job, I think they call that cancer.
Yeah, uncontrolled growth.
And it goes too crazy, and it grows and grows, and it tears things apart, and it ruins the whole machine. So I think pride is, you can identify that as pride. Hi.
Hey,
How are you?
I'm feeling okay.
We can talk today about something. We'll introduce this discussion as an addition to the great conversation that we have, that we're joining in for the cosmos, the conversation in a larger respect that we just play a part and we're not of any consequence. We're of value, but we're not necessarily of any consequence to the conversation.
Well, I mean, it depends on what you believe.
Are you trying to change it?
Well, no, I mean, like, there are some people that will assert that there's an energy in the whole universe and anything you put out into it affects everything.
That's true, I believe. I believe that's true.
All right, so it is of consequence.
So we are of consequence. Even this little discussion that we have is going to be of consequence.
Yeah.
Okay. So we should approach it that way. So we're approaching it with that gravity, that it's got consequence. So what we come up with is going to adjust the way things occur or are understood, perhaps.
All right.
Okay. Well, the topic of the day is it's that position. It's the pride of that position that we have, that we're changing the world. Should we be proud of that? Should there be pride in that realization?
We're so important and necessary to everything. And if we know it, then we're too prideful about it.
Yeah. Is that a bad thing? Should we be or should we not be? Right? That may be the thing we need to talk about. Because if you consider the conversation and we're consequential, are we proud of that consequence that we have? Are we, is pride a bad thing?
Isn't pride one of the 7 deadly sins?
What are the 7 deadly sins? I think it is. Is it said as pride? It's pride, greed, wrath, lust, envy, gluttony, sloth. Pride is the primary, first noted, deadliest of the 7 deadly sins.
Is it?
Don't know, because it's first noted that it's most important, but it's the first noted, and it's not in alphabetical order. So we might consider that is given in level of importance. That sloth is the least worst deadly sin, and pride is the most worst deadly.
Okay, so if you were, where does the 7 deadly sins come from? According to the Catholic Church, if you're a Catholic, then of course pride is a bad thing.
Yeah, because the Catholic religion is Christianity. That's the whole thing. I mean, Catholic religion, I'm talking about the LDS culture. In the Book of Mormon, the pride cycle is constant, and one of the main learning points of that doctrine from the Book of Mormon. So from the Catholic faith, pride does take the lead as well. So there's a pride cycle. Pride cometh before the fall, I think, is a scriptural reference.
Where's that from? Where's that appear?
I would have to find that verse. Cometh before the fall, and that's a standard common phrase as Proverbs 16:18. Pride goeth before destruction.
Okay.
Is how it's identified. So biblically, and it's got to be everywhere. So the first question I do want to treat is it good or bad? I'm also reading Plato, as you've known, and in it Socrates is talking about courageous. If you're rightly moderate in your living, you're going to be courageous. Does courageous have anything to do with pride? I think it does. How does it?
Well, if you have courage and you know it, you can be proud of yourself that you are courageous.
When you walk into a room, if you walk into a room with courage, It's the same as walking in the room with pride. I'm okay being here. I'm not afraid.
I don't think it is. I think
What's the difference then?
the feeling behind it is different. Courage is a virtue. It's meant to be a virtue. And so if you're courageous walking into a room, then you're not prideful, you're not conceited, it's courage implies a challenge, a difficulty. You can't just be naturally courageous because then you are prideful.
Socrates gives the dichotomy that courageous or cowardly. So if you're not rightly formed, you're cowardly. If you are rightly formed, you're courageous. And then the other things are moderate. If you're courageous, you're moderate. You're able to meet any situation, I guess. And you're crude if you're cowardly. So the inappropriately designed human being is going to be crude and cowardly and irritable. What's the two other words he used? Irritable and discontent. So your temperament's going to be irritable, discontent, cowardly, and crude. If you're not formed appropriately, if you're formed appropriately and moderately, you're going to be moderate in all situations, and you're going to be courageous.
But not prideful.
Prideful. And prideful is probably an excess of the moderation. Yeah. Pride would be taking something too far. Moderate people, if you're moderate in something, you're not proud of it. You're confident in it, but you're not proud of it. Not necessarily.
Could you be proud of your moderation? Like, I only drink alcohol like once every 3 months, and I'm pretty proud of that. Like, I'm not a heavy drinker, but also, I mean, I don't abstain.
So abstain is one side of it. And, well, what's the other side of pride? If cowardly and courageous are separate, what's pride? What's the opposite of pride? What's the
Humble?
corollary? Humble? Humility? I've got notes on this. I've been trying to think of this for 2 months. That's why we're talking about it now. And I don't want to necessarily give everything that I've tried to think, because the synergy of this conversation is going to open up something new. And that's what we need, the something new.
Okay.
So pride, and the opposite of that, humility.
Does Google say that pride is... Why is Google the internet god?
Well, because we're not using Grok yet. If you'd use Grok.
What is Grok?
Grok is X. It's the X AI.
Oh, okay.
Supposedly more truthful than Google or than ChatGPT.
Huh.
So ask your questions of Grok. That's what I've heard anyway. I've asked him a few things.
All right. Antonyms of pride: shame, disgrace. I think that doesn't fit. I think humility
That's not positive.
is a bit more.
So all those are negative
Meekness.
antonyms? Pride is a positive? Meekness would be a positive thing.
Yeah, that's what it was showing on the Merriam-Webster website. I'd say humility or meekness is more the opposite of the pride that we're talking about.
The pride that cometh before destruction, or the pride that is a 7 deadly sin. If you don't have pride as a 7 deadly sin, what do you have as the 7 virtues? 7 virtuous characteristics. What's the characteristic that you'd hold in his humility that you hold instead of pride? Or reverence, maybe. I'm thinking reverence would be the opposite of pride. Gratitude.
I wonder if, gratitude is kind of the other side of greed, one of the other 7 deadly sins. I just pulled up Benjamin Franklin's 13 virtues too, and I thought gratitude was on there, but it is not. Humility is the last of his virtues, but temperance, maybe? No. Moderation, pride, opposite of pride, humility, I think, and meekness. Why is pride one of the deadly sins? Why is it in Proverbs as pride goeth before destruction? And I searched up pride cycle because you had mentioned we were going to be talking about that. So I searched it up in my podcast player, and the only podcasts that came up, maybe it's because it's learning my preferences, but the only podcast episodes it came up with were from LDS podcasters. It feels like nobody else is talking about the pride cycle.
Yeah, their cycle, I think, is only connected to the Book of Mormon. I don't think it's connected anywhere else. I haven't seen it anywhere. We did discuss a few weeks ago the hubris, and I think hubris is pride. And where Jordan Peterson had said the hubris is a declining cycle of continuing decline. So that's the closest that I get to anyone else talking about a cycle regarding pride. If you consider pride and hubris as corollary, I think they are. They're the same thing. So the opposite of that pride cycle. I asked Grok that question. The opposite of pride. I said, from the perspective of the 7 deadly sins, humility is the opposite of pride. Pride is characterized by excessive self-importance or arrogance. So self-importance, arrogance. Humility involves modesty. And I used that word from Socrates. So moderate modesty, self-awareness. And we've talked about awareness quite often, that's the answer to, when we were talking about a number of things. Awareness has been a big topic in this conversation between you and I. If you're proud, you're not necessarily aware, and meaning that you're only focused on yourself, that's kind of narcissistic. If you're not aware of others, you're not aware of what's going on around you, you're just proud of your position. And that's someone who will take over a conversation, such as this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and all you say is, yeah, uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
So you agree fully with that someone shouldn't take over a conversation? And if they do, are they are they suffering from pride? And is it degenerating?
If that's happening, it is implied that they're a little bit full of themselves. They think that they have all the answers and all the things to say, and maybe no one else matters.
Unaware of anyone else or other opinions that might be there. Where is that there's just in that status, if you know the truth, if you know what you're doing, and you just need to make sure everyone else knows it, then you're going to bulldoze over everybody else.
I do that a lot especially when I'm observing my family members completing some of the chores that we've all agreed to do. I fall into the trap of saying, no, do it this way. This way's better. And I still think, even though I know that it's wrong that I do that, I still think that my way is better. I don't know how to not think that my way is better.
And then that rolls to being aware of that person. It's awareness and humility. I did things the other. I was cleaning a place for somebody else, and they had a way of doing it. And I found 2 things that were just completely not right. But I didn't tell them, that's not right, don't do that. I said, I did say one thing. There was and this may be just interesting, a resort type place, but the soap, what do you call that? Dish soap in the little container under the sink that is there. The cap on it was corroded, was completely plugged with old soap. And I said, this doesn't work. And I said, well, not that it doesn't work, but I used that word, this doesn't work. It was interesting. I said, do you mind if I clean this? And she says, no, that'd be fine. Go ahead and clean it. And then there was something else that was completely rusted and had a dirty paper towel under it in the bathroom. Why would you even do that in a resort type location? It's got to be perfect, pristine. And she said, we'll have to talk about that. So she mentioned it. She knew it was there. She knew it was ugly. And so I did clean the bathroom, but I cleaned that thing out. I changed the paper towel and I scrubbed off all the rotten stuff that was around the bottom of it and cleaned it up so it looked the right painted color and had a new paper towel under it. I says, I'm sorry, but I fixed that. So I apologized for it. I did feel proud, but in my pride, I didn't overrun them or anything or try to say, you should do this. And I said, sorry, I apologized.
But you're still
I felt like apologizing.
Proud of what you did. I mean, I go the extra step at work all the time, and that is not hard because my coworkers are all lazy, like bare minimum job kind of people.
And that's clear. People have been cleaning this place for years, and that's been building up for months, if not years.
Yeah.
And no one cares.
But we're proud of how we care. We care extra, right? And it's not that we're caring extra so someone will see how good we are. It's just that's who we are, and we're proud of that, right?
Okay. And that's what I'm seeing is that confidence and competence Or is it pride that's a 7 deadly sin? Is that wrong? I mean, that type of pride that we know how to clean it. We're going to clean it the right way. We're going to make it beautiful as opposed to just okay. Is that okay? And is that prideful?
Is it prideful to do a good job?
That's what I was thinking. If you shove it in their face, that's pride. If you say, I can't believe you guys have never done this. You do something exceptional and then you go and shove the other person's nose and say, this is how you do that. And then let them go.
Isn't it prideful if you're thinking to yourself, even if you don't ever tell anyone else, but you're thinking to yourself, I'm such a good guy. I'm so good at this. Look at how good I am. Isn't that also prideful?
What is the story? Little Jack Horner
sat in a corner,
stuck in his thumb and pulled out a plug and said, yeah, little Jack Horner sat in the corner eating a Christmas pie. He stuck in his thumb and pulled out a plum and said, what a good boy am I. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So is that pride? He's proud that he got that plum on his thumb. And maybe that's appropriate for a child, but is it immature? Is it immature to think that?
Yeah, well, and why do we teach our kids that it's okay to be prideful then? If it's an immature thing, you're fine. You can be proud of that. But then once you turn 18, then that's it. That's the end of...
Don't be proud of your work anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. Be proud of that picture. And now that picture is not a masterpiece, so you can't be proud of that anymore.
Right.
That's just no good for a 20-year-old. It's fine for a 6-year-old, but you're still doing it.
So we're giving a lot of examples of pride in the temporal world, right? I wonder if in Proverbs and in Helaman and in any religious context, it's really only meant to be related to the grace of God, being like we get into heaven only by the grace of God, and we are not to be proud of ourselves for getting into heaven. That's not on us at all. We had nothing to do with that, maybe. I mean, and I know that's not an LDS belief, because anti-Mormon Christians will say that's a major thing, a major difference between the Christian church and the LDS church, is that LDS people believe that they have to meet God halfway in order to get to heaven. But in the Christian church, it's no matter what you do, after all you can do, and even if you do nothing, God will bring you to heaven.
Do you believe both of those are absolutely true?
I believe that there is a wide spectrum of beliefs, but...
Right. So both of what you said, I don't believe either of those entirely.
Okay.
That way. I don't know that there's anyone that does. If you do believe it, and there are people who spout that and say that, but usually, and maybe that's prideful. So I want to identify that. Is it proud of the person who says, I'm working my way to heaven, or I'm doing these works to prove my righteousness? Proud is, you can be proud of your righteousness, but that is the first time I read the Bible. I read the Old Testament, and that came out as the primary responsibility in the Old Testament. It's my overall view of it. If I were going to write it into one sentence like this, the way we're describing books, the Old Testament is about, and I lost the word, I just said it a second ago. Starts with an R. It's about reverence, not reverence. Goodness, it's all about, tell me what I just said.
I don't know. I lost it too.
You don't know what the Old Testament is about?
Our words, responsibility.
Righteousness. It's seeking for righteousness. Right. So in every chapter it builds and everything else, they're just trying to be righteous. And the Pharisees supposedly got that right, and they got the checklist, and they got the boxes, and you've got to do this and this and this at this time, and you're going to be righteous if you do that. And so that's what it falls to. It falls to developing a way to live that is rote and script, and you know exactly what you're doing, and you're going to do it exactly that way every time, and then you're righteous. You're on the right side. So righteousness is what I got out of the Old Testament. Other people may get other things, but that's my primary word for the Old Testament. And those who are striving for righteousness, are they proud? And clearly they are. Is that right?
I agree. They are proud of how righteous they are.
They go to church every week. I do all of my pray 3 times a day.
Yeah, it's like the casting your alms before men, but not really before men. You're casting your alms, and then you're saying, "Hey, how good am I? Look at this." Like,
Yeah. And it said in that scripture in Matthew, and part of the Sermon on the Mount, they have their reward. But do your alms secretly, and then the God who seeth in secret will reward thee openly. So you're looking for God's reward. And that's why that does reference the pride cycle. And you can tie that concept to the pride cycle. If you're proud of what you do and you feel you're gaining righteousness and you're proud of it, you're on the downward side of the cycle. You're on the contraction side of that cycle. Or what is a standard cycle? It goes through expansion, apex, contraction, and trough, or the trough.
okay, yeah, like a wave
A sine
is
wave,
what you're
yeah.
talking about.
So it's a
Yeah.
wave. So your expansion, and when you're receiving blessings, and this is what the God who seeth in secret shall reward thee openly. That's identifying a blessing. You're going to be rewarded on the positive side. Your life is expanding. You're iterating to success, to growth. Everything you're doing is cycling upward. You get to the top, and you get you're in a blessed state. You're in prosperity, is the way the pride cycle does in the Book of Mormon. Is when they're prosperous, then you start getting proud and you feel like you're righteous and you deserve this. You're happy. And you got yourself there. And that's what starts sliding you down. You forget the Lord your God. That's how it is. You start talking about it. And it's from the Sermon on the Mount. You're doing your alms before men. You're praying out in the synagogues and on the streets so that people can see you, see your good works, and you have your reward. That's your only reward then. And you no longer get this rewarding openly from a God who sees in secret, because your reward is there with your fellow men. So you get your reward, that's all you have. There's no growth. Then you start declining.
So how do you do the right thing without feeling proud that you did the right thing?
That's a good question. And I'm glad that's where we get to that. The rest of the cycle is when you get to the bottom, then you turn to the Lord your God, because you can't solve your problems anymore. You got problems that are too big, and you're in poverty and depression. You can't get yourself out. So then you pray to God, and you then start dealing with him again, with trying to gain blessings from the unseen world, not from your fellow men anymore. And then the God who seeth in secret rewards thee openly, and you start growth again. But that's been described from the Book of Mormon as a cycle. The question you just asked, I've phrased it this way: is how do you stay in the right half of the correct half of that circle? What is it that jumps you from the top instead of being proud and falling? What jumps you from there to the bottom to relying on God again? And the two words you brought up before, meekness and humility, jump you right there. They keep you in that positive side of the cycle. So you're instead of a cycle, a wave cycle,
You hit a plateau, maybe?
you hit a plateau. And there's another book I want to mention that's Mastery, the Steps to Mastery. I'll put it on. I'll link it here because it's an important book. It talks about any time that you're looking for success in a skill that you're developing. He uses tennis as an example on that. You're going to play tennis, but until you get the basic skills down, you can't be competitive in tennis. You got to know exactly where your feet are and where the racket is, and your muscle memory has to be in place for a backhand and a forehand and a down spin or whatever. Whatever you do, and then you get to a level and you get to a plateau, and then you keep working on those things. You have to keep working on those things, and there's no advancement. You see no growth for quite a while, and then something will occur, and you'll get a growth spurt. He says that's the steps to master. You've got to be, and that's where I think he talks about it as a slog. You just slog through those times. That's where that word, I've been wondering where that word went, but I think it's from that mastery book. And this is what continuing your practice, whether anyone sees it or recognizes it or not, you're continuing your practice. So that's doing things in secret, that you're not trying to let the world know that you're practicing this. Or if you're he used martial arts there too.
But in your final performance, they know, they're like, that this guy must have practiced 10,000 hours on this. Like, you're hoping that
And is that
That's evident.
Is that pride? Does it come out in pride? Right. So the evidence there, is that evidence confidence and what was the other word? Competence, confidence,
Courage.
courageous. Is it courage or is it pride? You can step out with humility. He steps out with humility, but he's got confidence and courage, and he does it perfectly. So you perform perfectly in defeat whatever you're dealing with.
I wonder if the athletes who throw a big fit when they lose are the ones that are prideful, and the ones that accept a loss and understand, okay, maybe that other guy really was just better than me, then they're courageous.
Right. Or they're not prideful. The proud, and I think that's why Socrates brought up the idea they're irritable and discontent. If you can be irritable and discontent, you're not on the right side. You're on the pride side. You're on the side of hubris. And I'm relating hubris to pride as well. That downward cycle. You get into a downward cycle. If you think that you're victimized by someone else, you're in that downward side. The world's not the way I want it to be, and if it's not the way I want it to be, I'm going to let it know it has to change and become the way I want it to be. Or I have to get away from everything that's not the way I want it and set my world because I know how it's supposed to work. I know how the game's supposed to be played. A basketball player who's didn't win and throws a fit, that's pride showing. And if you win and you go and congratulate the other team and you're humble about it, you can be proud of winning too, and you throw the ball at somebody and say, you're whatever, pointing fingers at them and saying you're bad and we're good. It's the win-lose.
We are the champions. We're number one.
Yeah. A true champion, what is it? That the win-win, if it's going to be a win-win situation, we had a wonderful game. What is a gracious winner going to look like? He's going to congratulate everyone and say, they did a great job. The team we played, you hear this often when the reporters ask them, the team we played was great. We had to work really hard and we really appreciate them. They really brought our best out. You're talking about the other person as opposed to, yeah, we're the best. Those guys, they were nothing. They were nothing. And we proved they're nothing. So there's a prideful way to answer it. And there's a humble way to answer it. They just brought our best out. I appreciate them immensely. This was a great game, and they deserve all the kudos as well.
So what does meekness and humility look like in practice? Like, I feel like we really know what pride looks like, especially in ourselves, because that's really the only people that we really know. But
that we really know.
How can you be meek intentionally?
I put a couple of words next to that: faithfulness and obedience. But obedience, let's use that word to start with.
Okay.
If you're meek in your obedience, you can be gregarious in your obedience, verbose. You can tell everyone about it. I'm not sure what word I'm looking for. Grandiose in your obedience. You can put your obedience out there that everyone sees it, and that's the alms before men. That's doing your religion on the street, wearing your religion on your sleeves, and making sure everyone knows that you are a disciple of Christ.
Yeah. With your name tag and your white long sleeve shirt and your tie. Yeah.
So I'm only missing the name tag. I should just wear a name tag. That's what I should do.
Uh-huh.
My suit and tie when I go to work. My work is a white shirt and tie. It just is.
You just need a name tag.
Yeah. And then I could be fully grandiose in my meekness and obedience. Obedience, though quietly, a quiet obedience, that's confidence. A quiet obedience is confidence. You know that you're going to follow the rules of what you've practiced. Your practice is well enough ingrained and muscle memoried enough that it's going to come out no matter when you're called on to play or to act.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. That's what, if someone is meek, that's what they look like. But what are they doing? What are they thinking about? Are they thinking, today I'm going to try really hard to stay meek? And are like, what do you got to do?
I think they don't think about it at all. They're not concerned with that whatsoever. See if you agree with that. They don't think about meekness ever.
They're probably thinking about all kinds of other things.
And what are they doing? They're aware of, instead of focusing on them.
Yeah, instead of focusing on quitting this is an example, a side example. Like if you have a habit that you want to break, then you can try and think about that habit all the time. I'm not going to pick my nose all day long. And you set reminders and you're like, don't pick your nose, don't pick your nose, don't pick your nose. Or you can just push out the habit with other good things, right? You fill your day with reminders to drink your water, go for a walk, read a book. Like you've got all of those reminders, and you stop thinking about picking your nose completely because your day is so full of all of the good things.
Right. If you focus on it all the time, saying, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do this, it ingrains itself more deep inside.
Because you're thinking about it still.
You cannot do it. You cannot do it that way. And I've been considering recently, it's worship. It's what you worship. And that's just that's the religious way of saying what we're talking about. If you worship something, it's what you think about all the time. It's what's on your mind most of the time. And it's where your attention is. So what you attend to. If you attend to the problem you want to get rid of, you will not ever get rid of the problem if you attend to it all the time. And even if it's in the negative and saying, I don't want to do that, I don't want to do that, I don't want to do that. That's not the right way to do it. But what you suggested is you find the things that you can worship, you can think about, you can work on that are more valuable, that are a higher priority. You set up your values from the 7 habits thing. Begin with the end in mind. What end are you looking for? Let's start with those things and let's prioritize those things in our life and move them forward and then work towards a win-win in those things and let your life be focused on that. But pride is the easy way to say all of that. If you take something bad, like you happen to be a smoker or an alcoholic or pornography is just stuck with you, how do you get rid of something that has been ingrained for so long that you have to take that other smoke? How do you develop meekness? And it's the obedience. Obedience means practice. In response, in the long run, obedience means that you're doing something again and again and again and again. You're cycling it. Is that right?
Yeah.
If you're obedient to something, you're going to do it repeatedly
until your commitment is run up.
Do you ever stop being obedient? Is there a conclusion to obedience? Is there an end?
Yeah, like if I quit my job, then I don't need to be obedient to my boss anymore. Like he can't tell me what to do anymore.
You're doing a better job than other people, though. You identify that. If you're doing a better job than other people, your obedience isn't something you're getting from their boss. Your boss didn't give you obedience. And when you leave him, you didn't leave obedience.
Okay.
So obedience is bigger than one single person. Obedience is it's to the principle.
Characteristic of someone. It's who they are. They're an obedient person.
Right. And you're obedient to certain principles that may be higher than other people you're associating with. So you kind of gauge that and you say, I'm around this boss and he's picky and I'm obedient this way. And maybe he's picky about something that you're not obedient to, that you don't believe is a high value principle.
Uh-huh.
You do it anyway. You're going to maintain the same obedience, even if you do scale back. Say he was picking on you for something.
This is different than if your kids are just not doing what you tell them to do and you say, just obey my instructions, just obey me, but that's really just talking about just go and clean your room because I told you to clean your room, not be an obedient person.
And have a clean room. So the obedient person is going to have a clean room.
Yeah.
It's going to be a characteristic. So I think that's the obedience we're talking about, not you have to obey me, not coercion. You kind of pointed to coercion. You do this because I said it's right. Do it right now. That's coercion. That's not obedience. So obedience is training them, persuading them, raise up a child the way he should go, and when he's old, he won't depart from it. That's the obedience we're talking about, not departing from something that you believe is a high enough priority that you're going to do it all the time. And that's the meekness that a professional comes into the ring with when they're courageous and meek in that bout. They're going to come in knowing that they're going to be obedient to the things they've practiced. So that's where I think practice is the undergirder of obedience. It is your practice to be this type of individual, do this type of work.
Okay. No, that makes sense. So my question then, like we're still talking about pride. Pride is the umbrella of this conversation. So if you didn't have a God, then why would pride be a vice? Like what makes it something that you definitely should avoid if you're just a good person? Why can't you be proud of yourself if there's no heaven to go to?
I need to refer back to our discussion on hubris. Why should you not be hubristic? Why should you not just be pleasure-seeking? Because that cycles to decline. Simply stated, you're going to be in a worse position.
And that's a principle of history. It just always happens.
It's entropy. The principle of entropy. What is that? Physics. Physical world of entropy. I always thought that's a negative thing. Do you have a feeling of what entropy is in your head?
It's a decline. It's not growth. It's like the opposite of growth, right?
Okay. And that's the general thought of it, the general feeling.
Okay.
I'm going to see what Grok has to say about it. You see what Google has to say about it. I think this is going to be an interesting part. And relating to pride, we have to find out how to answer that.
Google sent me to Wikipedia, and Wikipedia says it's associated with states of disorder, randomness, or uncertainty.
Okay, so describing it in a negative standpoint, all the bad things, disorder, chaos, uncertainty. Entropy is a measure of disorder or randomness in a system. Randomness isn't negative. I think most people would see it as negative as well. I just don't like random things. In physics, particularly thermodynamics, so Grok has the right answer. I'm going to see what it has to say.
Okay.
Particularly thermodynamics, it quantifies the amount of energy in a system that is available to do work. So that's the definition I love. So it's from thermodynamics specifically. Often associated with the second law of thermodynamics, which states that entropy in an isolated system tends to increase over time. And in information theory, entropy measures the uncertainty or information content at a random variable, reflecting an average amount of information required to predict an outcome. Okay, so entropy is how much is available for it's your capacity available for other things is entropy.
Okay.
I believe it's a good thing.
I don't think that I ever really learned that word, because what I was actually thinking was atrophy. And I'm like,
okay,
it's one of those words. Entropy and atrophy are so similar.
They are almost the same thing, but it's completely different if you look at it in the thermodynamic sense.
Right.
Thermodynamics, the physical sense, it's increasing its ability to do something else. And you're breaking down to the simplest matter. If you have a complex machine, that complex machine can do one thing, that it was built for one thing. But if you take all those parts apart, those parts could be formed into all kinds of different machines. And that's the idea of entropy.
Okay. I think I'm getting it now. I'm getting the meaning of that word.
And how did that came up in the discussion? Because of what?
Why is pride a bad thing, even if you have no heaven to go to?
How does it bring you to, the final goal then? In the discussion of hubris, I brought up hubris because that discussion from Jordan Peterson, he wasn't talking about a final goal. He was talking about the way we operate. The way we operate in the world is with this entropy idea. Things will automatically go to where they have more entropy. It says in a closed system, entropy in an isolated system tends to increase over time. All of your actions, and we are in a closed system. This world is a closed system. This conversation is a closed system. If we don't manage the discussion, it will fall apart. It will more tangents, more rabbit holes will open up that we have to go into deep dive. We have to identify which hole we're going to go through, which tangent we're going to grab and hold on to, because the more we talk, the more tangents and more directions it can flow. And if you don't direct that, that's what entropy is. Conversations, and I think any conversation you enter into has that entropy phase into it, that there's many different ways you can go. But you have to try to consciously identify the line that you want to follow and then build on that and connect it to the last one, connecting the dots to the last concept. So it's not, and what started us on that idea is it the final goal? Is you have to believe in God and a heaven in order to care about pride?
Well, it seems like the sources of whether it's good or bad, are coming from religious backgrounds. So is there evidence of pride being a bad thing outside of religion?
I always say you're asking the wrong questions.
Is that the wrong question?
That's the wrong question. Is there anything that's not religious? So that's the point. That's what I think. Outside of religion, there is nothing outside of religion.
Religion is the world. The universe is religion. To you, of course, because you're LDS. I know that.
Not even that. Okay, to thermodynamics, everything is religious. Everything is ordered and operates. So yes, outside of any religious statement saying the Catholic faith says pride is the first of the deadly sins, that's fine. You say the Catholic faith, but pride, they're only saying it because pride is the first of the deadly sins. They're only saying it because thermodynamics agrees. If an atom gets proud, what would an atom do if he's proud? Atoms have electrons and neutrons floating around and a proton in the middle, and they're doing their job. If it gets proud of doing its job, I think they call that cancer.
Yeah, uncontrolled growth.
And it goes too crazy, and it grows and grows, and it tears things apart, and it ruins the whole machine. So I think pride is, you can identify that as pride. That's what happens when you get grandiose in your competence and in your obedience and practice, and just start running over everyone else with your practice. That tends to decline. And I think that's seen in the world. That's what Jordan Peterson was talking about with that hubris comment. So obedience is to laws, but you choose which laws to obey. You can choose to obey the law of damaging things or breaking things apart.
Based on your values, on what you value.
If you value destruction, you can be there are people who do value destruction. They're in the destruction industry.
Yeah. I mean, I certainly believe, it's clear that everyone is obedient. It's just their values that are different. Like my kids that don't clean their room, they are not valuing a clean room like I am. They value screen time. And so they're super obedient to that.
Right. And if you don't value screen time, so that's all the discussion of priority. You got to identify what it is you're valuing and where you're obedient to. We talked about faith recently. Because I related obedience and faithfulness to meekness. We're trying to identify and define meekness. We used obedience. Try to identify faithfulness. See what you think, what comes from your side.
For faithfulness?
Right. Relating to obedience and meekness.
If you're faithful to someone, then you are not even considering cheating on them. You're faithful. Even if you're sent off to war and you're in a different country where there's prostitutes everywhere, you're faithful. You're not even considering that that's an option. If you're faithful in your religion, in your church, then you are not considering that any other thing might be an option. Like this is my faith, this is my church of choice, and I'm not even going to worry about whether something else might be more true than this is.
What if you're a cleaning specialist at a facility? What do they call that? The maintenance crew.
Okay.
Are you faithful in that? How do you be faithful on a maintenance crew?
Maybe you follow the instructions. You don't consider that there's a better way to do anything because and you don't consider that something that you were told to do maybe isn't as important, and so you have faith that they know that this task does need to be done daily, and you do it.
Cleaning a clean surface because it's clean. It doesn't look dirty. They won't know if I cleaned it or not. But you're faithful if you actually clean the clean surface, and you're demonstrating some faithlessness if you don't do what the order was, because that looks clean. I'm not going to clean it. But that's where E. coli starts growing because you can't see that.
You can't.
You're cleaning a clean surface. You can't see the germs are actually there. And then all of a sudden someone dies in the office and they say, what happened? Well, the toilet was always clean.
It looked
I
clean
never
to
had to
me.
clean it. It was always clean. Did you clean the clean toilet? No, I never did. Okay, well, there's the problem. Clean the clean toilet. You know, when you're a doctor, wash your hands every time you get into a new room.
Even though they don't smell weird.
Before you touch the patient.
Yeah.
Yeah. They don't smell weird. There's nothing, but you're washing your hands. Put on your gloves every time when you touch somebody.
Right. And that's a faithfulness to the
To what your priority
principles of cleanliness, even if it's not visible.
And it's whichever principles you adhere to, you're going to be faithful to. So faithful to your priorities. So faithfulness is, I think it's the same thing as the practice. That's obedience and faithfulness. I think that's why those things tie together. It's because you're faithful to what you're obedient to. If you're faithful and obedient, you're going to go through the slog of practice until you get an advancement, until you get some benefit, some blessing from the God who sees in secret, rewards thee openly. Some reward is going to happen.
So when we had talked about faith before, you said that faith is necessary, and once you know better and you don't need faith anymore, then that's actually a bad thing, maybe. Like
when you have a perfect knowledge.
Yeah, if you can suddenly see the germs everywhere and you're actually cleaning dirty surfaces because you can see them, then you don't have to have faith in the process anymore because you know the process now. Or maybe you can, so then you become prideful.
You relate that to the black light. If you take the black light out, you can see where the dirt is and you can clean those spots.
You can see some of the invisible
protein deposits,
visible.
Whatever they are.
Yeah.
Right. So with a black light, and maybe there's another bit of vision, you could put the glasses on that now you can see all E. coli bacteria. You know, that hasn't been invented yet, but if it's invented, that'd be something. You could make sure that that's never a problem.
If you remove the need for faith, then does that mean you're now prideful and full of yourself?
Who removed that? Yeah. Does it? What do you think? Does it? Answer your question.
Yeah, maybe it does, because then you're like, well, I know this is dirty, and so I know that I cleaned it because I can see that it's not dirty anymore. And so
is that confidence? You could either do it in pride, grandiose pride, or you can do it in confidence, in humility.
Okay.
I'm using this tool that was provided to me, or I invented this tool. Even if you invented the tool, now I know that this is clean. I have full confidence that's clean. I think pride is how you present it or hold it in yourself. If you hold it that I'm better than everyone else in the world, I made this invention. Did Edison have pride? Was Thomas Edison prideful when he invented the light bulb? What's his most famous quote about the light bulb?
I don't know. We didn't do a unit on Thomas Edison when I was in school.
I believe it is, I found 10,000 ways it didn't work.
Oh, right. Yes, no, I know that. I know that quote.
Yeah, he didn't talk about I'm the best in the world. I'm the boss. I'm the leader. I'm the winner. I won this race. You're in a race. I found 10,000 ways it didn't work. And that's what he focused on. He said, yeah, this is great. We finally got one that worked, and it's going to work. Filament's going to do great inside this vacuum, and it'll be fine. Whatever the tungsten, whatever it was he used with the filament.
Does that imply that he brute forced his way to creating the light bulb? Like, he just brought together a blade of grass and a sunflower. Nope, didn't work. How about a sunflower and a piece of paper? Nope. Like, he found 10,000 ways that didn't work. He didn't.
How else do you get to 10,000? Yeah. How do you get to 10,000 hours? With brute force. The slog that we talked about.
Yeah.
It's the practice. He did practice.
It's the practice.
A lot. And you can call it brute force. Yes, it was brute force. It does take effort to practice something and to keep it up. And it takes dogged effort, brute force.
Who was the other guy that people say that Edison stole the limelight from because he actually found the light bulb before?
I think every invention has something like that people were working at the same time. Is there someone that
Nikola Tesla. Of course, Tesla. You should know this because you're a fan of Tesla.
You think Tesla invented the light bulb first?
Nikola Tesla in the War of the Currents. Okay, so it says Edison did the direct current system and Tesla did the alternating current system. And so it was a war. They were
But Edison gets the accolades for it because
he said, I did it 10,000 different ways. Tesla probably was like, you know what, I'm just going to sit and think about this for a really long time. And then once I think I've got it, then I'll try it. And he only tried it like 5 times, probably. He only had to try it 5 times because he wasn't brute forcing it. He was using his brain. I don't know. I wasn't there. I can't say.
Yeah, who knows? And everyone knows Nikola Tesla was a genius. He's amazing. But I don't know his statement. When we discuss this book, the notice will have to bring up Tesla and other autobiographies. That's going to be a topic we'll approach in a few weeks. So that's going to be interesting. It's going to be fun. Knowing about these things and learning from it. He did learn. Nikola Tesla did a lot of things, and a lot of things that are supposedly did that we can't do anymore, that he supposedly answered, which we can't do.
Yeah. Well, one of Nikola Tesla's most famous quotes is, "Be alone. That is the secret of invention. Be alone. That is when ideas are born." So he probably wasn't doing 10,000. I bet he wasn't doing 10,000 ways to make a light bulb. He was probably being alone and then trying it a few times.
Well, and being alone, I'll use a religious word for that, is pondering. He was pondering. You ponder the situation, you mull it over. You do your hard work and you're thinking by yourself. And I think that was one of Edison's quotes. No, was it him or Einstein? Says, my only benefit is I can focus longer than other people. So that's what Tesla was kind of saying. Focus on something long enough alone that you get an answer, you come to a conclusion. And we're doing this alone. I mean, I've been alone on this pride thing for a couple of months. Now I'm inviting you into the aloneness of it.
Am I coming up with at least most of the answers you came up with already?
What did I write extra here?
What do you know about it that I haven't come to yet?
Do you agree that you want to be on the correct side of this? You want to be on the iterative side, positive, instead of the negative.
Whatever side that is, I want to do the right thing. Yeah. I just don't know what the right thing is.
Oh, okay. Righteousness. Right thing being righteousness. Do you want to do it the way the Pharisees did it and identify everything and have checklists and this is what you have to do, and on Sunday you can do this, but you can't do that?
Right.
You don't want that type of righteousness.
There is a signal. Is there a signal? There's a way something identifies pride as not a good thing. And that's what happens when you are prideful. You're kind of thinking about other people and how they're not as good as you. And you start to consider that you're the best person that you know, and therefore everyone else is less than you. And you lose your...
That's the grading scale, right? We, in 7 Habits, talked about grading.
Mm-hmm.
If you have grades and you grade everyone around you.
I'm grading myself with A+, and everybody else is getting B's and lower because, I'm so much better than everyone else.
Yeah. And in the Book of Mormon, there's a Tower of Rameumptom where they go on and say, we praise you, God, for making us better than all these other people.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah, that's a prayer that people would offer.
What happens to them on that tower? Do they get struck down with lightning?
I think they have their reward. I'm not sure. I don't know the full story. I didn't develop a whole sermon on it. It could be developed though.
Okay.
What happens to them is a good question. Yeah. Because the pride cycle, it goes through a number of things. They must have fallen because that's the identification of the pride cycle. What they say the Book of Mormon was written for, it's to describe that process. And don't get on this side of the process that you're proud of yourself over other people. Don't grade yourself against people. Don't compare. Comparison is the
thief of joy.
Thief of joy. That's right. Where did that come from?
Mark Twain, maybe?
Could be Mark Twain.
Maybe it's just an old thing that nobody knows where it came from. Everybody's
It's a statement. Maybe it's one of those anonymous statements.
Yeah. It's
Yeah, I've heard that.
Oh,
You've said
his
that
says
before.
it's often attributed to Roosevelt, but other sources mention Mark Twain. I don't know. I was half right.
People who say it say it. Comparison is the thief of joy. So maybe that's in relation to the positive side. Instead of blessings from God, rewards from he who sees in secret, is joy. Can you add that to this positive side of the cycle? That's an increasing. If you have joy, are you iterating to the virtue, to increasingly iterating, increasingly virtuous?
Yeah, I had thought about joy for a while. Did we talk about that at one point?
We did. Yeah, we talked about it, how, well, in a couple of times, how C.S. Lewis was surprised by joy.
Oh,
That
yes.
book we discussed.
Right.
And then there was another joy. Was it Martha Beck talked about joy? Did she write a book about joy,
She wrote a book,
or someone else?
maybe, but yeah, I think it was a Martha Beck subject as well.
It was more of a temporal type joy. You're finding, so it wasn't on strictly a religious standpoint that C.S. Lewis did. I know we made that comparison in the last little bit.
Yeah, this was episode 18 that we talked about joy, just in case anybody wants to go back and listen to that. Episode 18.
Okay. And was that the C.S. Lewis one?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was relating to that. I think it's important to note as well that joy happens in atoms. And, if a body is operating perfectly, it's going to be in joy. It's going to be operating perfectly. There's no pain. It's enthusiastic.
It's not a conscious process. It's a biological process, you're saying?
It's an everything process. So I'm saying it's ubiquitous. It is in all things,
Okay.
joy. And that's what I think Martha Beck was talking about, was some temporal joys that you're looking for. You're looking for happiness in your crowd, in a group of people that you're with, and enjoyment of something. That's why I think it works in this pride cycle. Joy is the positive side. If you're sufficiently meek and obedient and faithful to everything, to your principles, to what you value, then you're joyful. If you're hubris, what's the opposite of joy? Did we discuss that? What would be the down cycle? If the up cycle is joy, what's the down cycle?
Despair.
Despair. Despair might be it. And the word he uses is discontent. Discontent is what Socrates used here.
Okay, yeah. If you're joyful, you're content, and you're
discontent. Joy is content. And that was, we talked about it in our silo discussion. It was brought up that Paul in the Philippians said, in whatever situation I find myself therewith, to be content. To be content in where I am. Be joyful. You can receive joy out of that situation. You can be content. And anyone who is in the pride cycle or hubris or looking for pleasure in every event and just looking for happiness and is going to be despair and discontent quite often, because you're not going to get everyone doing the things that you want to be done.
Yeah.
But if you find yourself content, you don't want them to necessarily do anything. You're paying attention to them and working with the situation. Moderate, being moderate. If you go excessive on anything, is that pride? That's my question. What do you think about that?
Gluttony. Are you saying is gluttony related to pride?
Gluttony is an excess. Yeah, that would kind of mean all the 7 deadly sins are the same. Are they all one thing? Are they all one thing? Just different ways to say the same thing.
Pride, greed, wrath, envy, lust, gluttony, and sloth. Yeah. Yeah, it seems like they're all connected.
And is discontent the word that connects them all? Discontent. Sloth. Sloth is the apathy.
Yeah.
I just don't care about anything. You don't care about anything because you're discontent with, you're not going to be content with it. So you don't care. Maybe.
Yeah, I would say discontentedness is like if you put all of these on a Venn diagram, they could intersect right there at discontentedness.
Discontentedness is the 7 is sin.
That is sin.
Well, 7 deadly sins, they're just identifying 7 tangents outside of sin. And if they all connect to discontentedness too, perhaps discontentedness is sin.
Is this
by itself
kind of pointing towards Buddhism and What is the other thing? Where you're just content with everything. Everything is what? Suffering. And see, I haven't studied Buddhism very much, so, but I feel like this is pointing to something like that, like
It's it may be.
a Eastern religion kind of
Well, it's
thing.
a oneness with everything.
And Stoicism is you're just you're not excessively happy about anything or upset about anything. It's I have this and this is good for me.
You're content. Yeah, it's the content. And you don't have to make anyone do anything or make yourself do anything. You're not necessarily going for righteousness. I think that may be what that battle against, or that's the side of it.
Yeah.
You're either battling for righteousness and practicing so that you can get all the boxes checked just the right way, or you're okay with E. coli being on my bathroom sink. It's going to be fine with me.
Yeah, well, I mean, you don't have to be okay with it, but you're okay with the consequences of it. Like, I came in contact with this, and so I'm okay. I know that I can get through this next whatever that I'm doing.
And that's the practice too. If you're meek and confident and courageous going into something, you know that the consequence isn't going to hurt you no matter what it is.
Yeah. But are you prideful if you know that? Or maybe you need faith. You don't know it, but you have faith that you'll come out okay.
Is there any fear in confidence? Confidence might have a tinge of fear, but generally it doesn't. If you're courageous, you're not fearful.
Well,
you're not cowardly.
You can't be confident without fear. You can't be courageous without fear.
How? Why?
Because courageous is the battle against fear. It's there. The fear is there, and you are courageous because you are fearful.
Standing up in the face of fear, is that what you believe courageous? That's a definition of courageous. Standing up in the face of fear.
Yeah. There was a quote from somebody important on courage.
Right. And maybe I'm sure that's a statement. Do we believe that? Do we have faith in that description of courage?
Courage is being scared to death, but saddling up anyway. Where did that come from?
Some rangeland guy, some rancher.
Some rancher, yeah.
Yeah. Heading out to gather cattle in the middle of the grizzly bears.
Yeah. If you didn't have fear, then it wouldn't be courage that you're exhibiting. It would be pridefulness.
Competence.
Not
competence?
Maybe confidence.
I'm thinking there's a delineation there that we're not considering. So the two primary answer with that.
It was John Wayne that said courage is being scared to death, but saddling up anyway.
Okay, breaking horses. Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably in a ring, and you got a horse there that you've got to prove that you're the leader, not him. But maybe that's the wrong way to break horses too. You look at other horse materials, you've got to gain the horse's trust before you ever attempt to get on his back.
Yeah. If you're not afraid, you don't need courage. That's the blank truth of it.
That's what you think?
Yeah. If you don't need courage if you're not afraid. If you're not afraid, then you're full of yourself. You're like, well, I'm invincible. I can do anything. And you're prideful.
If you're not afraid, you don't need courage. And you are prideful. That's saying, so the courage that you're pointing out there is the courage that says, we're going to win this battle. There's no option for anyone else to win. We're going, wrestling mat. I'm going on the wrestling mat. There's no way, no possibility that I'm going to lose. I've got courage. That's the courage.
No.
That's not courage. Courage is saying, this guy could beat me, but I'm going in with courage.
I'm going to try anyway.
I'm going to try. But what if you know that you're going to win? Can you go in with that courage?
Then it's not a competition.
What if you really have no fear?
Then you're not courageous. You have no need for courage.
Okay, so you have no need for courage. Someone outside who has fear can describe you as courageous. He was courageous. He went in, a god, the Battle of Troy. Who was it?
Achilles?
Achilles and Hector. Hector got killed. Achilles went in. Did he have courage? Everyone else in the battlefield thought Achilles had courage. He didn't, because from your definition, he knew he was going to win. You can't kill Achilles. You can kill Hector. Hector went in and he was not brave enough, I guess. I don't know. He was human. Achilles was a god. And of course, those are stories, myths.
Yeah. But they're true. So
It's a true story. Are you true to the story? But did he have courage? Everyone else said, and it was written about, that he was courageous. But really, Achilles was, what was he? He was prideful. He knew he would win. He esteemed everyone else below him anyway, already. So he knew that. If you know that, that is pride. That's a definition of pride, esteeming everyone else beneath you. And the gods know that. So God is not courageous. If there's a God, the gods or God, Heavenly Father, who created the world, knows everyone is beneath him. We're his creation. We're his children. You know that so there's no courage in that. Is there pride? Is that why pride is a 7 deadly sins? Because it's something that's of the purview of the gods only. They're the only ones that can be proud.
there you go. This is a line that I was exploring in my head when I was listening to the LDS podcast episodes. I was like, so if you have to credit God, if God's the one that deserves the accolades for the good things that are happening in the glory, for everything good that happens, then obviously, and he wants that. He's prideful. He thinks that he's better than everyone else because he's a god, because that's just what he is. He is better than everyone else. So it's a little bit, these seven deadly sins, are they all godly virtues that mortals are not allowed to be?
like gluttony. Can God eat too much?
Can he eat to excess? Like, he can probably. Overindulgence, overconsumption.
Well, can he though? If you don't need food. So Christ, when he was resurrected, ate, but he didn't need it. He didn't have to. Ate a honeycomb, and but they say resurrected bodies aren't living on the same thing that your body's living on. So you don't need to nourish yourself. So anything that a god eats is gluttonous because it's not necessary. You're taking food from someone else who needs it. The wrath, angry God. What is it? Is it wrath? God's wrath.
The God that covers the earth in water and kills everybody, and then
right. Repents that he ever made them. So I've got to kill him. So that's the way the scripture puts it. He repented that he ever made man and saved only 8 souls. Glory, I was concerned about that a while ago, and I haven't thought much more about it. But why do you need to glorify God? I hear that all the time. It's common in the standard Christian faiths, Christian realm. Glorify God. We're here to glorify God, praise God, and that's what we're going to do forever and ever. When we get to heaven, we're going to get to heaven and glorify God. What does that mean? It doesn't, and praise God, because praise kind of simplifies it a little bit more, but it doesn't give any deep meaning to it. What's the deep meaning of glorifying God? And why does he need glory? And speaking about that level of Christ, Jesus Christ came and the meridian of time to be the mediator of all mankind, to atone for the sins of all mankind. Is he not proud of that? When he comes and he says, "Come follow me," was he not proud? A statement. Can you say that phrase, "Come follow me," without pride?
Come follow me. I know the right way.
I know the way. I know the way. There is no way to God except through Christ. So is Christ stating that pridefully, or is that pride? How can you say Christ is not prideful if he is the only way back to the Father? Can that be humble? Can he just be meek and confident and competent? Is he afraid of anything? In order to have courage and confidence, he has to be afraid of it. Was he afraid of the resurrection? Or was he afraid of the torment? What did they call that happened on Sunday before he was Friday before he was crucified?
I don't know.
Tribulation. It was something. The Tribulation is something else. It's what he went through. Was he afraid of being whipped and torn and beaten? In order to be courageous, he had to do that. I don't know that he was great. Well, in the Garden of Gethsemane, they say that he bled at every pore. And he asked, Father, if possible, remove this cup. And the angels came and supported him and helped him. So there might have been fear there. Must have been fear. It was that demonstrating fear so that he did go forward with courage because there was a fear for it. It wasn't, I got this. I can do this. Yeah, you guys just go to sleep. He said, can't you just stay with me for a while? How come you have to sleep? I'm going to go off and pray. Stay with me. But then he comes back and they're asleep and he gets upset because they're asleep. He was afraid. He needed his friends with him still, perhaps. And it did say, the Doctrine and Covenants, it talks about, I was afraid that I would shrink, but I finished the course. So he was proud then that he finished the course. He had courage because he was afraid of it. He was bled and shook.
He had to have courage to get through it, but then once he got through it, then he was proud of it. Yeah?
Yeah. And then he can stand up and say, when he comes back in the second coming or when he appeared, behold, I am Jesus Christ. Behold.
Look at me. Here I am.
I'm proud in front of you. That's a prideful statement. But is it meekness? Behold. If you use that word, just behold something, it's not definitely look at me. It says behold. That's a direction for you to do something. Take hold of what you're looking at. Behold this. But you do it. It's what we were talking about. It's the individual that's important. Is everything Christ say? A meek person would pay more attention to other people than themselves. So maybe that's where I can rectify this Christ idea, because he's not talking about himself. He's not saying, everyone get out of the way, the king is coming. Roll out the red carpet. Make sure that the lights are all lit the right way. He's saying, behold, I am Jesus Christ. And he'll step into whatever situation you have. He'll be content in whatever situation you're in.
Are you working through this because you need him to be meek and not prideful? Does it just not make sense that Jesus would be prideful, and so therefore we need to figure out how he's not? Because everybody says it's written all over all of the Christianity texts. He's meek and mild. He's the lamb. He's not prideful. So let's figure out how everything he did is definitely not prideful.
Okay, the other side of that, meek and lowly, is talking about his childhood. He was born as a mortal, and he lived with everyone else, and he learned his task. His learned carpentry, and he obeyed his parents. Meek and lowly. He didn't come in as the king, the Messiah that the Jews were expecting to come in and be the ruler immediately and take over and get the Greeks out of there. He didn't do that, or the Romans. He was a normal, standard rabbi, but he was the Messiah. And he did his task, and he was afraid of it. And maybe he did fear that through his whole life. Fear what his responsibility was going to be. He knew he was called to it, and he wasn't sure that he could accomplish it. And maybe God wasn't sure either. So God, sitting in the heavens, in Mel Gibson's Passion of the Christ, where it shows the tear, still my favorite part of that movie, the tear from up in heaven that falls and hits the ground. And it's kind of a magnification of it through a tear, through God's tear, because God didn't know he could do it either. And if God's going to be courageous, God has to have not known, the omniscient God has to have not known that he could have done it, that he would have done it. It had to be a chance that he failed.
This is another example of you saying God was courageous, and so therefore he had to have not known. You're doing it again. You're fitting God into your box. What if God really is prideful? What if he is a prideful God? What if he's full of himself and stuff like that? So what? He's God. What if he's the antagonist of humans? What if he's actually not our friend? What if he's the ant farm watcher? It's possible, I think. I think it's just as possible as if he was a benevolent God that was courageous and had no pride. you know,
And that's why we're talking about this process.
the cycle, the pride cycle.
If the cycle, yeah, if it's discontent and despair, I mean, it appears that God despaired at some time and flooded
Okay.
the earth with the
So he's on
creation
the
that he
pride
made.
cycle too,
And
you
there was
say.
despair there. So that's pride. That's pride. But maybe where we started this thing, the thing about God, maybe it's a godly attribute. Maybe these 7 deadly sins and pride is a godly attribute, and we can't have that yet. And maybe if we ever reach that level, then we can be proud. When you've actually done something, actually created a world, then you can be proud of it. The statement isn't that it's good. It's that I'm proud of it. The statement is that he saw that it was good. That's the scriptural statement. Divided the light from the darkness and saw that it was good. So goodness is what he was after. And is that pride? Is that if we see that what we do is good, and that's what you said, I believe, I want to just do what's right. I want to find what's right, find what's good, and do the good thing. And this comparison, pride is just a comparison word. That person's proud, that person's not. That person's humble. We're using these just for comparison. What is the actual characteristic of it?
Yeah, it's not a dichotomy. Like it's a spectrum. It's where do you fall in real life?
And since it's a spectrum, does it matter where you are on that spectrum, really? Proud or discontent or moderate? Is there a right place
According to your own values.
in relation to pride? Because you can value yourself as a builder or as a deconstructor of buildings, a bomb, explosive specialist. And wherever you're at, it's just who you are. The right. So someone says, I'm proud of you. You would use that phrase for someone. I'm proud of you because you met the expectation I had. We had that conversation about expectations. You met the expectation. And so I'm proud of you. You did what I was right. But I'm also proud of you because you did your own thing. I never would have done that.
And that's what I value, right? It's someone else's opinion of you has nothing to do with you. So whether they're proud of you or not, that's just a feel-good thing. It has nothing to do with whether you're doing the right thing or not.
So what you really mean to say is not I'm proud of you. You really mean to say I see what you did and it's good.
To me. It's good to me.
I see what you did was good. It's good to you. It's good. It's good.
It was good for more people than it was bad.
Good doesn't place them in a position. Okay, good and bad. That is a spectrum too,
well,
right?
And there's no way to tell if it really was good or bad. More.
I saw what you did and it was bad for those ants because you burned them all. But it was good for my house because now there are no ants. But it was bad. It was good. It was bad. You killed that dog, but it was good that you killed the dog because it was going to bite your sister. But we don't like your sister, so it was bad.
I wonder, I mean, you gotta, if you're conscious of this, of how opinions have nothing to do with the person the opinion is about, right? If you're conscious of that, maybe you can use language like that kind of whatever you did was good in my estimation, right? You can add qualifiers to that. Or you can be, when you receive opinions of other people, you can say, they had a pretty good opinion of me, and that means that they're thinking something about me, not that I am something. Or they have a bad opinion of me. If someone gives you negative feedback, then you're like, well, that has nothing to do with me. That tells
me more about you than about me. Your comment tells me more about you than about me. And that's got to be always true, right? If you have that understanding that you're talking about. Anything that comes out of your mouth condemns you, not what goes into it. That was a statement about the food. It's what comes out of your mouth that condemns you, what you say. And that's what shows who you are. What you eat isn't going to bother us at all. You eat whatever you want.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, when it comes to pride, that's a subjective thing. It's for some people, they are humble, even though they're a little bit more proud than their neighbor.
Well, in that comparison, pride is a comparison thing.
Yeah.
More proud
than. The thief
than.
of joy.
It's got to be more proud than. I'm proud. Can you be proud without being more proud than or proud Is pride by itself, or is it always connected to someone else or something else? Pride in your accomplishment. You have to have done something.
Yeah, can you be prideful just as a characteristic and have that not directed towards anything or as a result of anything?
I've heard that before. A proud look, is that?
Well, a proud look is in the eye of the beholder, though. Like if someone thinks that you look like you have a proud look, then that tells you more
Yeah,
about
like
the
the Mona
person looking at
Lisa.
you.
The Mona Lisa picture. Is she a proud look or is she a humble look? I don't know.
I think it depends on which tour guide you have with you.
Yeah. Or how you're feeling that day. It's whether she's smiling a little bit at you or if she's grimacing at you. You don't know. It depends on how you're feeling when you look at the picture. Tells you more about you than about them as to whether she's proud or not. And maybe that's the magic of that face, as it can be.
It can be anything. Yeah.
And again, the magic of it is that we don't know. We don't know what the face feels or thinks or what was behind it or what even Michelangelo, did he do it? Was it his? Who did it? Whose is?
Who wrote the Mona Lisa?
The Mona Lisa? Is it Michelangelo?
Da Vinci.
Leonardo da
Of course.
Vinci. Da Vinci. Okay. Da Vinci. And so now that we're both looking at her, is she proud or is she humble? I mean, people say her clothes are humble, but her face, that smile, grimace smile, what is it?
Yeah, she's content.
So courageous.
Is what I'm seeing.
She's afraid of something, but she's still there.
Yeah, maybe.
That's kind of like the smile of Benjamin Franklin on the $100 bill now. His half smile. Yeah, pull out your $100 bill and look at that.
Oh, yeah, sure. Sure, I'll go and grab one of my many $100 bills. Now I can see, I pulled it up on images search.
So you see the, yeah.
His lips look pursed, like he's not content. This guy isn't content about anything.
It looks like a smirk, more like a smirk to me that he's doing.
Yeah, like, oh, what are they doing over there?
Yeah, look at what's happening now.
Where did they get this photo, this image of him, this likeness?
Yeah, and that's my initial and complete thought on that is why would they use that one anyway? Why would they make him look like he's questioning something, questioning the government, questioning everybody, instead of being proud? He's being condescending almost in it, I think. Not condescending. He's being, questioning. He's concerned.
He's concerned.
There's a little more concern in that.
He's a little bit worried about the direction this government is going.
Yeah, what are you doing with my country? We gave you a country. We gave you a republic, not a monarchy. What are you trying to do here?
Yeah, would you say that this image, the use of this image is a signal of some deeper conspiracy?
We could certainly write about that or talk about that for a long time. Okay, we discussed God being on this cycle potentially, and we don't know enough about him to really place that.
Right, and any opinion we have of God is our own opinions.
It's uninformed.
Right.
And it does only try to make him fall within the design we have in our mind of him. So whether you're designing him in or out, you can do it either way. But other people, autobiographies, people that we know, are there people that we know on the downside of this that have cycled down? Who you mentioned sports. Is there anyone who is a taunter that is just fallen apart? In tennis, John McEnroe. What do you think about him? Do you know much?
No, I don't know.
Not at all. He used to always fight. He would get angry as he was playing.
He might have been on the down part of the pride cycle.
Yeah, the pride cycle saying, I'm proud and you're beating me and I can't handle that, so I'm going to get discontent and blow up. Anything else? Anything come to your mind?
The only ones I'm thinking of are fiction, like villains in movies. like maybe in the Da Vinci Code where there's the evil cardinal guy that is a little bit proud of himself, and that there's 3 movies from the Da Vinci Code franchise, I suppose.
Yeah, I don't know which one I don't know which one, or I don't have that in my mind. What did he do? What did he do in your mind?
He ordered people to be killed because they knew secrets about the direct lineage of Jesus or something like that. I I don't know. I can't say that I paid attention perfectly.
Yeah, he also knew, but he just wanted to get rid of the loose end, a loose cannon,
Something like
perhaps.
that.
So
Yeah.
someone that knew something they shouldn't know. So I can keep the secret because I'm proud. I know I can do it. I'm a cardinal, but you can't. I know you can't, so you have to die.
Yeah.
I know you can't.
Oh, Lightning McQueen in Cars. He was very prideful. He thought he was the best. And then he ended up getting stuck in who knows where, Arizona or whatever.
Yeah. It was on Route 666, right? Yeah,
Yeah, Route 66. Yes.
Route 66. Yeah. And he had to learn from Tomater how to do things. And who was the old doc
Yeah, the old race car.
that taught him how to do stuff?
Yeah. Taught him that life was more about living it than winning it, I think.
Yeah, Cars is that's a big philosophical show, right? Philosophical series. But that's the win-win. Win-win, you're both going to win. It's more about living it. You're going to live with people. You're going to acknowledge them. It is awareness of others as opposed to focus just on yourself. Pride is focused just on yourself. Lightning McQueen, as he starts out, is only in it to win and make sure everyone else loses.
At the start. And then at the end, in their final race, Chick Hicks wins the race, but nobody cares about him. They just care about Lightning McQueen helping the older Dynaco car over the line, help him finish his last race. So the the winner got the trophy, but that was it. They didn't like him, even though he won.
The winner in the movie was the one who stepped back. I mean, there's those stories about marathon runners that will come across, and someone just almost gets to the finish and cramps up and can't move. And so that's one girl tries to finish and then goes back and picks her up and says, "You're going to finish before me. Let's all finish together." So I think three of them went in at the same time, and they let the one that cramped up that was ahead win.
Yeah, they would be more courageous than they would be prideful, right? In that situation, they're afraid that
What we talked about, that they were more faithful and obedient to their principles. Their principle is, if I'm going to win the race, it's going to be fair and square. She was clearly ahead of us. If she hadn't had this problem, she would have won easily. So we're going to help her across. She has to still win, even though we're 3 minutes late now because it took us that long to get her up there.
yeah, in bagpiping, there's in the band contests, you all play your best, but you can potentially scratch. Like you're better than all of the other bands, maybe, or even in just that one competition event. But if one of your pipers can't play and you don't meet minimum numbers, then you're playing for sheets. You're not playing for an award. Like you can still go on, you just don't get placed, you know? You still get feedback from the judges because you didn't meet the strict rules of the bylaws and the contest rules. Like
That's like auditing a class. You're not going to get a grade for it. You're just going to audit it. You're going to go in and
you learn
can sit
everything.
there.
I think you still have to pay for classes that you audit too, but maybe not as much because
Yeah.
you're not getting the certificate.
People on the bad side. Lightning McQueen had to be turned. Is there someone that, what I wrote down a few things, lost people who I didn't really write anyone who broke through. Breakthrough stories are people who make it to autobiographies that are good. Someone who was bad, who was beaten down, that came up and won. William Wallace, for instance, that was just a nobody, but he was beaten down, but he came out and won the people anyway.
Won the people, yeah. Do you have to start at the high part and then go down to the valley of the cycle and then come up again? Are you looking for someone who was good, lost it all?
Yeah, those are the rebuilding stories, and that happens a lot. And that's what autobiographies are made out of. That's why you would biography someone's life, because they went through the hero cycle, where they were damaged and they developed courage, and in the face of fear, they stood up and still accomplished. The pride cycle is a little bit different. The hero cycle is saying they did it, that we're proud of them. They were proud of themselves. They did it rather than they were blessed out of the situation. And the pride cycle says that if you just keep your humility, and is there an example of someone who kept their humility that came out on top, who just kept working? I look J.D. Vance. I wrote him down as one of those, because he didn't start out as a kid thinking he was going to be president. He may still be president of the United States. He may be the most powerful man in the world in 5 or 8 years. You don't know, but he could. And right now he's right next to him, and he's doing a very good job being who he is, communicating with the world, and even meeting the Pope the day he dies. No one normal gets to do that. You've got to be extraordinary to get in front of the Pope.
So J.D. Vance has only been going up.
Right. He's one that's with courage and faithfulness and practice, slogging through life. He went through the military career and he just did his job. He wasn't impressive or instrumental in that. I don't think any of the businesses he started was impressive or instrumental. He didn't go in as the premier senator when he won that Senate race. And he was picked. And I think if there's any pride in his life, he's got more pride now than he's had before, because his life changed as soon as he was made vice president. Everyone knows him now. He can't go anywhere anymore. Unless he shaved. If he would shave his beard, he could probably go anywhere. His look right now. That's an example of just getting in the slog, keep working through it, getting to it, and then you'll be picked up. And then in our discussion of communities, I mean, that's tier 3. To get to that, you have to be invited. He was invited first to run for Senate, and he decided to do it, and he was successful at that, and then invited to be the vice president, and successful at that. We'll see what his next invitation is, but he's likely to be invited to something else.
Well, I don't know if there's anything more to say about any of that right now.
Whether there's anything we need to close out still, I don't think there is. We haven't done it justice, for sure.
We never do.
Enough. We've spent our time, and we'll see how this pulls together. Yeah, let's just close this out. I want to say thank you for listening. Thanks for talking to me first. And
yeah, you're welcome.
Having us work out both sides of this and learn the new stuff that we learned. And then we'll have more to think about as we go on. But again, it's just the great conversation we're a part of. We're trying to be into that. And I think you saw in this, and you see in all of them, that we're not trying to present an idea that we already know to be true. We're trying to find the truth in everything that we approach and be true to it and our perspectives. So hopefully life gets better and good, and we're looking for the good. You'll find our website, doyouhaveaminutepodcast.com. From there, it'll lead you to everywhere else or in the notes on this show. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day.
Good night.
Good night.